Muy bien, lección 8. Vamos a repasar la diferencia entre masculino y femenino, la tercera persona. Vamos a aprender expresiones de cortesía y un check-in para el hotel. Bueno, un repaso. Remember, everything in Spanish is either going to be masculine or feminine, right? In general, the rule is words ending with O is masculine and words ending with A are feminine. As we've seen, there are some exceptions, but they're few and far between. El libro, la pizarra, los libros, las pizarras. These words also need to match up in terms of number and gender, right? Por ejemplo, Andrea, ¿de qué color es el libro?
El libro es rojo.
¿Y de qué color son los libros?
Repite.
¿De qué color son los libros?
Los libros son rojos. Sorry, Arianne, I wonder if that was meant for you.
No, they were both for you, Andrea.
Okay.
All right, so everything needs to match in number and gender, right? So we've got the article el or los, we've got the noun libro o libros, and then we've got the adjective rojo o rojos. Arianne, ¿de qué color es la pizarra?
La pizarra es blanca.
¿Y de qué color son las pizarras?
Las pizarras son blancas.
Muy bien. Okay. Would this be el naranja o la naranja, Andrea?
La naranja.
¿De qué color es?
La naranja es naranjas or naranja.
Naranja.
Or anaranjada.
Anaranjada is the color, right? Naranja is the fruit, so la naranja es anaranjada. Muy bien. Arianne, no, keep going you, Andrea. ¿Los o las?
Las naranjas.
¿Y de qué color son?
Las naranjas son anaranjadas.
Muy bien. Arianne.
El plátano es amarillo. Los plátanos son amarillos.
El escritorio es negro. Los escritorios son negros.
La mesa es blanca. Las mesas son blancas.
El diccionario.
Diccionario.
El diccionario es amarillo. Los diccionarios son amarillos.
La puerta es no recuerdo. Okay. Purple is ¿cómo se dice purple en español?
Morada.
Morada. Okay. La puerta es morada. Las puertas son moradas.
La computadora es verde. Las computadoras son verdes.
La casa es azul. Las casas son azules.
Muy bien. Okay. When we're talking about people, of course, the adjectives and the articles are going to match the person, right? The gender of the person. El secretario está contento. La secretaria está contenta. El profesor está emocionado. La profesora está aburrida. Remember, some words end with consonants, typically the R or the N, and those you need to add an A to make feminine. El estudiante, la estudiante. So estudiante is neutral. The article changes, the adjective will change too. El estudiante contento, la estudiante deprimida. Okay, Arianne, el o la.
Al recepcionista
¿Y cómo está?
está feliz.
Sí, o contenta. En el otro,
Las recepcionistas están contentas.
muy bien.
El profesor. Hold on, let me move this. Está cansado.
Cansado, muy bien.
Los profesores están, ¿cómo se dice awake en español?
Despiertos.
Despiertos. Los profesores están despiertos.
El secretario está mal.
Mal means bad.
Okay.
We're looking for sad.
El secretario está triste. Okay. Las secretarias están contentas.
El profesor, ¿cómo se dice excited?
Emocionado.
Repite.
Emocionado.
Emocionado. El profesor está emocionado. Los profesores ¿cómo se dice? Bored.
Están aburridos.
Aburridos. Los profesores están aburridos.
La mujer está contenta. Las mujeres están tristes.
La estudiante está contenta. Las estudiantes están deprimidas.
Plural. Okay, let's take a look at some courtesy expressions. You probably know most of these. Muchas gracias, of course, means thank you. De nada means you're welcome. Okay. If somebody says something to you and you just don't quite hear it, right? We would say, what? Or what did you say? In Spanish, in most Spanish-speaking countries, it's going to be como. Here I have to teach you mande because that's what they say in Mexico, and therefore that's what you're going to hear most people say here in Colorado. Mande? Of course, if you say that to somebody that's not from Mexico, they'll have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, perdón o disculpa. This can mean I am sorry in the sense that you have made a mistake or have done something wrong and you want to apologize. Lo siento can also be used that way. It can also mean I'm sorry in the sense like you're expressing sympathy for somebody. Con permiso. That means, can I get by you, right? Excuse me. It can mean excuse me in the sense that you're passing through a group of people, or if you need to excuse yourself from a dinner table or a meeting or something like that. Muy bien. So, Andrea, what would you say in this situation? Someone just helps you move into your new house.
Muchas gracias.
Muy bien. You didn't hear what someone just told you.
¿Cómo? Oh, wait. So isn't como how? Why is it not que instead of?
Here you could say como. Como normally means how, right? It's just the way they say it. Remember, not everything translates 100%. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. ¿Cómo estás? How are you, right? But this is just one of those things. Andrea, you're at a party and need to get through a crowded room.
Con permiso.
Someone just thanked you.
De nada.
You bumped into someone.
Con permiso.
I wouldn't say con permiso here. This would be more of a perdón o disculpa. A friend just told you some bad news.
Lo siento.
You just offended someone.
Perdón.
Your boss just gave you a raise.
Muchas gracias.
Of course. Let's review the verbs. Ordenar, Andrea.
Yo ordeno, tú ordenas, él ordena, ella ordena.
Yo tomo, tú tomas, él toma, ella toma.
Yo reservo, tú reservas, él reserva, ella reserva.
Yo bailo, tú bailas, él baila, ella baila.
Yo cocino, tú cocinas, él cocina, ella cocina.
Yo esquío, tú esquías, él esquía, ella esquía.
Yo viajo, tú viajas, él viaja, ella viaja.
Yo deseo, tú deseas, él desea, ella desea.
Yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla, ella habla.
Yo camino, tú caminas, él camina, ella camina.
Yo leo, tú lees, él lee, ella lee.
Yo bebo, tú bebes, él bebe, ella bebe.
Yo corro, tú corres, él corre, ella corre.
Yo como, tú comes, él come, ella come.
Yo aprendo, tú aprendes, él aprende, ella aprende.
Yo escribo, tú escribes, él escribe, ella escribe.
Yo recibo, tú recibes, él recibe, ella recibe.
Yo discuto, tú discutes, él discute, ella discute.
Yo vivo, tú vives, él vive, ella vive.
Ok. Nuevos verbos. Repiten. Llegar.
Llegar,
Desayunar.
Desayunar,
Preparar.
preparar,
Descansar.
descansar,
descansar,
Trabajar.
trabajar,
Estudiar.
estudiar,
Responder.
responder,
Asistir a.
asistir a.
Okay, so all these words basically have to do with the daily routine, la rutina diaria. Uno, Arianne.
Yo llego a casa por la tarde.
Tú asistes a las clases de español por la mañana.
Mi patrón responde a los empleados por la tarde.
Mi esposa desayuna por la mañana.
Yo trabajo por la noche.
Él prepara el café por la mañana.
Ella descansa por el mediodía.
Tú estudias español por el fin de semana.
Muy bien. Again, we're seeing this word por, which we've talked about a little bit in the past. We use por to talk about approximate times and periods of time. It'd be like saying around, about, during, or ish in English. Like number one, yo llego a casa por la tarde. I get home in the afternoon. It's not very specific, right? Very general. ¿Qué hora es, Andrea?
Hora es,
So remember to say son las.
son las 10:10.
Arianne?
Son las 9:17.
¿Qué hora es?
Son las 8:25. 24. 4.
4. There you go. ¿Qué hora es?
Son las 12.
Son las 1:15.
Es la 1:15. Remember, the number 1 is uno or una. I think you're thinking of the first. If we were going to tell a date, you would say it's the 1st of January. Es el primero.
Okay.
But for time, we're going to say es la una.
So for time, it's una.
Mhm.
La una. Okay.
Yep.
Es la 1:15.
Arianne?
Son las 3:05.
Son las 4:25.
Son las 5:35.
Son las 7:46.
That would be 46.
O 56.
Muy bien. Okay, here's a little dialogue for doing a check-in at a hotel. Go ahead, Andrea to Arianne.
Bienvenida al hotel. ¿En qué la puedo servir?
Hola, necesito hacer el check-in.
Muy bien. ¿Ya tiene reservación?
Sí, me llamo Frances Older.
Bueno, ¿cómo te llamas tú? Change this with your, of course.
Me llamo Arianne Lázaro.
¿Cómo se deletrea su apellido?
Se deletrea Lazaro.
Perfecto. Aquí está su reservación. Es por 3 noches.
Así es.
Tiene una identificación y una tarjeta de crédito.
Claro, aquí tiene.
Muy bien, señora Lázaro. Aquí tiene la llave. Disfrute su estancia.
Muchas gracias, muy amable.
Muy bien. Looks like we lost Andrea.
So why is it ya tiene, not tú tienes una reservación?
Ya tiene. Ya means ya means already in this situation. And are you saying tiene instead of tienes?
Yeah.
Tienes is the to form. This is in what's called the usted form.
Oh, okay, I see.
So you know, checking into a hotel is typically considered a pretty formal situation where the employees that work there are going to be super duper overly polite for you. So that's what's going on there. Muy bien. Hola, Andrea, what happened?
My computer died.
Oh,
So I didn't even know that was happening. Lo siento.
está bien. Okay, let's see here. Have we talked about doing dialogues to personalize the Spanish journey for you yet?
I don't know what you mean by that. No, so no.
No. Okay, so this comes from the other book I told you to get, the 5 Easy Steps to Speak Spanish with Confidence, which is just a mixture of practical advice on how to study and how to practice Spanish, right? So anyone can become conversational in a new language in about 3 months, 3 to 6 months, depending on your personal circumstances. However, it's largely up to you to do that, right? You've only got me for an hour a week, but the learning doesn't stop after class. To remind you, the first step is dedicated towards getting a notebook. And hopefully we talked about this in the past where you should have a notebook. You divide it into 5 sections. The first section is dedicated towards your inspiration, your motivation, making Spanish your #1 objective by realizing why you're studying Spanish. This part of it is all about personalizing the Spanish classes for you by creating dialogues of what you would like to learn how to say in Spanish. Okay. Super important when it comes to this part, they should not be hypothetical dialogues. Okay. Don't make up an imaginary situation, right? It should be relevant and practical to your current daily situation. So most of my students are learning how to speak Spanish because of work, right? Because it could help them communicate better at work. And I think that's the case for you, Andrea, right? I'm not sure, Arianne, remind me why you're learning Spanish? I don't think it's for work for you.
Ya por viajo.
Right? So for you, it's going to be a little bit different, Arianne. If it's not related to work, it's related to travel. So in that situation, it might be a little bit more hypothetical, right? But the thing is, make sure that it's real, right? Like, I mean, maybe you've got it like this, but you probably don't want to start talking about renting yachts and, you know, doing something crazy like that. You know what I mean? Like make it a real checking into a hotel, ordering food at a restaurant, buying souvenirs, that sort of thing, right? So, you know, this is what a dialogue would look like. The first round is you write it in English, right? Write it how you would normally be having the dialogue today. So you can see here, I've got a dialogue between my wife and I, right? You leave a couple of spaces in between each line, so that'll give you room to translate into Spanish. So as you do this, you start filling in the phrase by phrase, what you'd like to learn how to say in Spanish, okay? Now, there's a good chance you're not gonna know all of this vocabulary, and that's the exact point of this activity, right? And so another way you can think about this is we've got all of our conversations on our phones already, right? So look at your last few text messages or emails, or if you use social media, you know, your Facebook messages or whatever. The important part is it needs to be an exchange, okay? It needs to be a two-way flow of information. It needs to be somebody asking questions and another person answering those questions for you to get the most out of this. So from there, once you start doing that, you're going to start identifying vocabulary that's important to you, right? So almost everybody I know needs to learn as much food vocabulary as possible. Look around your house. all the vocabulary, related to literally everything in your house. Walk around with a pen and paper and look at stuff. And if you don't know how to say it in Spanish, you need to learn how to say it, right? That's especially true for your office. And in this situation for Andrea, if you're learning Spanish to be able to speak at work, you want to learn how to say everything at your office, all of the activities that you do at work, things that you like, daily activities and hobbies. And you may be wanting to go travel with Spanish, Arianne, but a lot of this is going to be the same for you, because if you're traveling and you're staying in a hotel and the chair breaks, the chair is something I've got here in my house, but it's something that would come up in a travel situation, right? Yeah, you need to call the receptionist and ask for a new chair. Or, for office and work, why do you want to know that if you're just going to travel? There's a good chance you're going to strike up a conversation with somebody and start talking about work, right? Or that's just the things that we talk about. So write down your routine at the house, write down your daily routine at work. Do it in English, and then you'll start identifying certain words that you need to learn, which I may or may not be teaching you, right? Because I've created a very generalized program for everybody, but here's a perfect situation. Arianne is traveling with Spanish. Andrea is talking to families in the community in Spanish. You're going to be having fairly different conversations, right? And so it's up to you to personalize that journey for yourself. And if you do this, it will make it a lot more powerful and it will get you speaking a lot faster, right? So I say you can learn how to speak Spanish in 3 to 6 months if you do the right things. This is one of them, right? This is one of the things I had to do when I was living in Spain during my first immersion trip. I was not getting what I wanted out of my classes. I honestly did not understand my teacher at all because she didn't speak any English and I didn't speak any Spanish. And so this was back in the day with the dictionary. I was walking everywhere with the dictionary. I'd walk into a restaurant and sit down with the dictionary and paper and, just start looking up words and trying to figure out what things meant, So the next part of this is going to be dedicated to conversation starters, okay? Conversation starters. What do you say when you meet a new person in Spanish, right? How do you get a conversation started? If you can memorize, I say at least 3 questions that you can ask the next time you hear a Spanish speaker, right? Because we live in Denver and there are Spanish speakers everywhere. Try to memorize some of these conversation starters. These are 4 of my favorite conversation starters that are almost guaranteed to start a successful conversation for you. So the first one, of course, I taught it in lesson number 2, I think. Hola, me llamo David, estoy aprendiendo español. Podemos practicar español, right? So you introduce yourself, you tell the person that you're learning Spanish, and then you ask if you can practice Spanish. I promise you, this works. If you're in the right situation, the person's going to say yes. Obviously, if you're just walking down the street and you see a Spanish person on the other side of the sidewalk, don't go running after them, hey, right? That's not going to work for you. But if you have somebody that you work with, if you're standing in line at the grocery store, if you're at a cafe or a bar, or someplace like that where people meet to socialize, if you're, at a restaurant and your server, has a Spanish accent, almost guaranteed the person's going to say yes in this situation. 2 other conversation starters, or 3 others I like is, ¿qué te gusta hacer para divertirte? What do you like to do to have fun? And that's just straightforward, right? Everybody likes to talk about what they have for fun. So if you ask somebody what they like to have for fun, then almost instantly they get a smile on their face and they're going to start talking to you. ¿Cuáles son tus intereses? What are your interests? ¿Qué te hace feliz? What makes you happy? Okay. So all of these conversation starters are designed to pretty much guarantee you a successful, friendly conversation. Try to memorize these, right? And if there's something else that you might like to talk about with somebody, right? Have a section of your notebook that's just dedicated to questions that you can practice and memorize. So the next time you hear somebody speaking Spanish, because when you're the language acquisition process, when you're learning how to speak a language, it's different for everybody. To be able to actually start speaking it with fluency, which essentially means you're thinking in the new language, that happens at a different moment for everybody, and it's influenced by a variety of factors in your life. But one of the biggest factors is practicing the language, right? You have to get out there and start speaking, and it's uncomfortable at first and you're going to make mistakes at first, and the only way to do it is to do that, right? There's no other way to do it. You can take all the classes in the world, but until you actually go out and start up a conversation with somebody, you're never going to start speaking Spanish with fluency, with confidence. Sometimes when you're meeting new people, I mean, most people are naturally nervous at the onset of a new conversation with a new person. And when you go into your second language, you can multiply that by 100 or maybe 1,000, right? And so I don't know, maybe you've already experienced this. Have you ever heard somebody speaking Spanish and like you wanted to say something to practice, but you kind of like froze up?
Mm-hmm.
Has that happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's because you're nervous. That's an anxiety thing, right? That's a kind of psychological, emotional impact that can have. You might know what to say if you're in a relaxed situation, but you throw in a little bit of nervousness with it, and all that goes out the window, right? And for the life of you, you can't think of what you're trying to say. So the more you practice these conversation starters on your own, right? The next time you hear Spanish, you're a lot less likely to freeze up. Okay. The last section would be just to write personal reflection in your journal. Okay, start writing about your experiences with Spanish. What's working? What isn't working? What do you wish you could do better, right? Talk about your experiences with speaking Spanish. Positive, negative, whatever you want to say. Just put it out. This is like a journal, right? A diary. Put it out there. And the more you do these types of activities, the more you're going to incorporate Spanish into your daily life and get it into your mindset that it's something that you're working on, right? So if you haven't read that book, go ahead and read it because that comes from the first step. Here's another good book now that we're getting to the end of this level for you. I'll put this in the chat for you as well. Speaking of practice, if you have a colleague or a friend or a neighbor that speaks Spanish, as I mentioned, it's really important for you to start speaking Spanish with people. This book is a book of 500 conversation starters that I wrote. It's just one page mirrors the other. One page is in English, the other is in Spanish. So you'll be able to understand it. And it's just a whole bunch of conversation starters for a variety of situations.